Hey everyone, today I'm sitting down with Advanced Real Estate, Paul Julian, who's the president of the company. We are really excited to be here, sitting down with you, talking about real estate. For the folks that don't know, Advanced has almost 11,000 units and has been in the business for about 45 years. So they're up to a lot of exciting things, and we just want to sit down, hear what you're up to.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah. So tell us about Advanced for the folks that don't know, and then tell us about a little bit of what you're up to.
Sure. Well, Advanced, as he said, was started about 45 years ago by my father. Co-founded it with his partner, who runs our property management and in-house renovation company. So we're a fully integrated company. We're all privately funded. So we have, like Dan said, about 11,000, around $4 billion of real estate here. And we stay close to home. Everything we have is within Southern California, Orange County, LA County, and Inland Empire.
Now, it's good to know. I mean, we've seen you around. You've been acquiring buildings. You do a great job. As you mentioned, you're vertically integrated. We're going to go back and take a look at the facility and really see what it's all about. On average, just curious, how many units are you turning up per month?
We do about 50 units a month out of this facility. And like you said, we'll take a look at it. And it's a full service approach. So we'll do, brand new cabinets. We build them in-house here in Irvine. You don't see many people building cabinets actually in the USA even. But, we have our own plumbers, HVAC, electricians, framers. Everything's in-house basically except roofers and asbestos removal. We outsource those items, but everything else is in-house.
And then over the years, when you've acquired real estate, you've raised funds from outside investors. Some investors have exchanged. Maybe they've owned a smaller apartment building and have rolled in and acquired a property through one of your funds. How many funds have you done over the years?
Well, it's funny, we used to acquire properties one-off, and we realized a couple of years ago that it was much more powerful to raise the money up front and go in. It's more powerful to the seller. It's more powerful for the brokers to know that we have all the funds raised ahead of time. And so we started our first fund in 2019, 20, and we bought about 1,200 units in that fund and raised about $126 million. This time we raised $170 million on the second fund. We've deployed about 30 of that. So we have $140 million of fresh powder. It's all raised up front. We don't do capital calls, so it's in the bank, fully insured and ready to go.
Well, that's great. And then you're also rolling out something really exciting. You had our team in here last week. We got to walk through the facility and really hear about the new fund that you're rolling out, which is the X Fund, where potentially a lot of viewers that are watching could benefit from. So
yeah,
tell us about that.
Yeah, this fund is interesting, and I'll give my father credit for this one. It was his brainchild. But what we found is a lot of our investors, we have about 850 investors, and some of them had their own real estate they owned. And they were realizing that the money they were making with us was higher return on their equity than it was on the properties they owned themselves. And they were having to do all the work. They had all the liability. And so they realized, why don't I just become a limited partner in the advanced funds? And so you can't 1031 exchange out of a piece of real estate directly into a fund. You have to do a TIC, tenant in common. And we did that for years, but it's wrought with some problems and some difficulties. And so we came up with this concept using IRS tax code 721 allows you to contribute property tax-free and take partnership shares in return. So it's a pretty interesting concept. And so we'll take on a bunch of smaller properties, smaller than we typically buy. We usually buy 100 units and up, institutional sized properties. But with this, we'll take on smaller properties from a lot of different owners. They contribute the property. They become diversified immediately amongst all the properties we take on in that fund. We do one fund per year. Mm-hmm. And then we'll hold those properties for 2 years. And then our favorite brokers will go and sell those properties for us in 2 years, and we'll exchange out as a fund into some big properties, big institutional quality properties that we found over the years are more efficient, higher returns because you're spreading the cost over a lot more units. So that's the goal. So these people will go from owning their property to being a fund investor in a big portfolio of really big, efficient properties.
So for the viewers out there, if somebody's looking to do an exchange and they don't know maybe what they're going to exchange into, this potentially could be a solution for them to where they don't know what they're going to roll into. You could then acquire their property, roll them. They would donate the property into the fund, designate the property into the fund, more or less, and start receiving a return when about?
Immediately. So within the first year, they should have expectations to return about 4% on their current equity today, at today's value. So that's We're not comparing it to what they paid for it and the money they had in then, but if they took today's value, subtracted their loan and some cost to do it, that what's left over is their equity. Multiply that by 4%, they're going to get that first year. And it's going to go up from there, and then we're going to refinance every few years. And you pull out cash when we refinance, tax-free. It's debt finance distribution, so it's not taxed. And they can roll that back with us into another fund. They can keep it, whatever they like to do.
And then it turns into a passive investment. They're not dealing with any management, decision making. They're out. They're collecting a 4% return on their equity, which is a big point because a lot of these properties have built up a substantial amount of equity. Exactly. And they're getting cash flow on that.
I think they'll be surprised when they compare the cash flow they'll be getting on that 4% compared to what they're netting today. We've been analyzing, hundreds of these now, and almost every case they make more in our fund, and they're not having to do anything, and they're out of the liability chain, right? They're not getting sued. They're a limited partner now.
And that's just it. I mean, as we're just in California, we're just seeing a lot of changes, right? And you've already got a vertically integrated infrastructure. You've got the facility. You've got the capability to handle all that, but it's just getting growingly overwhelming for the one-off owner or the person that has 3 or 4 buildings, and maybe they're got deferred maintenance on some of these properties, and it's just one thing leads to another. So this could be potentially a solution for an investor that still wants to stay in multifamily with their equity.
That's right, and the best part is they don't have to go through that sale process, that 1031, that excruciating 45-day period. There's none of that. They literally come in, they transfer the deed to us with a short escrow. We're obviously going to value the property. We have to come to an agreement with them on what the value is. But we figure out what that equity is. We do the short escrow. Boom, they're an investor with us now. They're out of the investment in their property. It's into the portfolio with the rest of them, and they're diversified.
It's definitely very interesting. When you first told me about it, we were here right away to listen and learn. And it's really important to then convey this through to the viewers. It's none better to have you here and talk it through, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, if your viewers go see Dan, ask him to come in, and Dan, bring your clients in. We'll tour them around personally.
Yep.
And show them the facility, show them what we do, and I think they'll be convinced after that.
Absolutely. Well, let's go take a look at the facility. Let's check things out.
Cool.
All right. I always get blown away when I come in here. You're used to it, but it's pretty remarkable.
So as you can see, this is what he's cutting right now. It lays it out in a very efficient manner. There's no waste. And all the sawdust gets sucked up into these tubes, and it all gets recycled every day. So we're trying to keep it green here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Then we have our edge band. So this edge band's the edge of the cabinet. We try to use a thick edge band because, like I said, we hold these long term, and we want it to take the beating of the,
right.
The tenants for all those years.
Right.
Then we'll come into the warehouse. So over the years, we've learned how to standardize everything we have so that we can use the same toilets, the same lights, the same fans, the same wiring when we renovate the properties. Then we can buy in bulk, and we pass that bulk savings on to our investor. And so this is our mini Home Depot, as we call it. So come on back, we'll show you. So what our guys will do is they'll load up 3 units worth of material onto pallets. And then that door opens there, and we have a whole bunch of pods. And the pallets are actually loaded into the pods in the order that they come out at the property. We're down to that type of an efficiency. And then the pods are put on our flatbed truck fleet, and they're dropped in a parking spot at each property where they're supplying. And the good part about that is instead of using a unit or two to work out of, they can just work out of a pod. So those are units that wouldn't be producing revenue, but we're just losing a parking stall, that's all. So it's an efficient logistics system. And as I said, Dan, we're doing 50 units a month out of here on average.
Well, you renovate them to hold them forever, so you're doing it right.
That's it. We're probably going to spend a little more, but we get paid back in spades because it actually lowers our repair and maintenance costs. Once we've renovated a unit, you're not replacing broken cabinets, you're not replacing things that get damaged because it's all durable products we're putting in.
And are you getting these products, a lot of them direct?
We are. So we have a purchasing manager in that corner office over there that is buying in bulk from different suppliers and some directly overseas.
Got it.
We also get dealer pricing because when you're doing 50 units a month, that's more than any home builder's doing in Orange County. And so things like Sterling, Kohler, Frigidaire, we become a dealer of these products, getting their lowest pricing, and once again, passed on to the investor. We get those low prices.
Yeah, the scale definitely helps you get the right pricing. Efficiency is at its best.
Absolutely. You'll see here, so these are cabinets that are wrapped, ready to go. You know, it'll have the name of the property, the unit number that it's going to, and these will be loaded into those pods like I talked about. And then here's our typical apartment unit. Two different quality of bathrooms, but the kitchens are all the same. So we give everybody a farm sink, no matter if you're in an A market or a B market or a C market, you're getting the same quality. And you know, rift white oak cabinets, the black fixtures, and we're doing something special underneath the cabinets. If you look at this is a marine grade cutting board material under here. That's usually the weak part where you get the water drips. Well, with this, if the water drips, it makes its way to this hole through this routed edge, and it drips on the tenant's foot, even if these doors are closed. The tenant has to call you and say, hey, I've got a leak. And therefore you don't get mold that drips down into the unit below. It really saves you a lot of money in the long term. All the cabinets are 100-pound glides, soft closing, quartz countertops. So this is not always something you're going to get in a B or C market. So once tenants move in and get this, they don't want to move out because they can't find it anywhere else except for maybe a luxury brand new product that's maybe out of their price range.
That makes sense. This is beautiful.
We're installing our own windows. So we're a Milgard window distributor. Our guys do that. Like I said, our guys replumb. Our guys put all new electrical in-house. So you'll see over here, this is a high velocity paint booth that we've installed. A little tricky to do. It took a while with the city of Irvine and the EPA to get this installed, but we use all low VOC paints. So there's no smells, there's no toxicity to any of our materials. So it's green and non-toxic.
Wow.
Yeah, you can see in here, this is our testing room. We're always testing out new products and things. You know, here's a bath fan, for instance, that, you know, has a night light, a regular light. You can even play your iPad or your iPod while you're in the shower and listen to music. So things like that. We've actually moved away from these keys onto everything's digital now to enter your unit with your phone. We always use the thickest sound layers. If you're going to do it, you know, and you're not flipping the property, you're holding long term, you can do it right. Spend the extra money to get the sound protection to keep your tenants so they don't get mad when somebody's walking above them. We use PVC on all our products. When we do fencing or hardy board on the exterior, we don't use wood because we don't want to have that maintenance. Once again, lowering the repair and maintenance costs.
Right, makes sense.
This is our latest acquisition here, Dan, is Edison Apartments. This was actually an office building, high-rise office building in Long Beach that was converted in 2016 to apartments. We just acquired it a few months ago, and you know, what's neat about it has 12-foot floor-to-ceiling glass because it's an office building of higher floor-to-ceiling than an apartment building. So you can't replicate that on a new build. So we're going to see, I think, a lot of these conversions coming up. You know, as offices are more vacant, people are going to start converting them into apartments. It's expensive to do, but if you find the right building to do it with, you end up with a pretty cool product. They even added a pool on the roof and 2 stories of penthouses.
Wow,
So we were excited about that buy.
That's a great one. 376 a unit?
Yeah. This is the founder of the company, my father, Rick. So I don't know if you want to say something.
Well, welcome here, guys. We look forward to working with all of you and see if we can do some deals.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having us here.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for showing us around and talking to us about the X Fund. And if anybody has interest in talking about the X Fund, feel free to reach out to us and we can set up a tour and meet with the Julians and see if it's a good fit.